We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. This is going to be a fun one. We're going to do a live on TikTok, and that will be the podcast. The thing is, we're doing it directly after the debate between Tim Walz and JD Vance. So I'm going to go live on TikTok. I've been telling some folks we're going to do that. We're no doubt going to get a lot of people coming through here, maybe even some Republicans. We do have moderators that will be kind of policing what's going on TikTok because some of those motherfuckers get crazy. You know what I'm saying? But if you watch the debate, there is no question that Tim Walz won that debate. There's no question about it at all. Um, JD Vance did pretty much what I expected he would do. I was watching MSNBC right after the debate, and Nicole Wallace said something interesting. She said JD Vance was very smooth, quite a departure from what Donald Trump does, because Donald Trump is basically an ignorant, spoiled child. JD Vance is certainly much smoother than that. And in fact, Tim Walz may be a little more awkward than JD Vance. But in spite of that, in spite of JD Vance's smoothness, he lost that debate. There is no question that JD Vance lost that debate. He went back to the same old script. He did the same old thing. He was he was just parroting everything Donald Trump said, and when he did that, um, he took it nowhere. I mean, he gained nothing. One of the things that one of the MSNBC people said was that he said nothing memorable. He's attacking Kamala Harris. He's trying to backpedal on all the things he's ever said. And he's got a couple of problems going on in this after this debate. He said something very specific. He said, I never believed or wanted a national abortion ban. Well, it's all already going on all over social media. There is videotapes and documents where he wrote this. He has absolutely been for a national abortion ban. And up there on the stage, he absolutely lied. As I said, he was kind of smooth. And this was not a combative debate. And I wasn't sure that that was going to be the case. Tim Walz did strike back a couple of times, a few times. But I think the most telling hit that Tim Walz made is when he asked JD Vance whether or not he believed uh, Donald Trump lost in 2020. And JD Vance could not answer that fucking question. He could not answer the question. And the thing about it is, whatever he did that was positive prior to that during the debate, it's all wiped away because he embarrassed himself, he embarrassed Donald Trump, and he embarrassed the Republican Party. So I said that Tim Walz would win this easily, and he did win it easily. Trump told him never to say he lost. Yeah, I guarantee it. If not having told him that, they certainly didn't want him to go against Donald Trump, regardless of what the lie is. And that's kind of what happened. We're on TikTok Live. I'm recording the Rational Boomer podcast. Um, I think that this is going to be an interesting conversation. There's going to be a lot of people coming through, and we'll try to get to all the questions and comments, and I appreciate them. Um, JD still believes Trump did not lose. He blew it in front of TV, could not answer the spot. Yeah, that's absolutely the thing that blew it for him. The fact that he could not answer that question. I mean, it's a foregone conclusion that Donald Trump lost. All the um, all the court cases prove that, and he just could not admit it. And that was a big mistake on his part. He already lost the debate before that point because he was just continually lying. He couldn't really answer anything. I think Tim Walz did a great job explaining all these things from healthcare to childcare to the economy to the border. At one point, JD was trying to blame Kamala for the border problems, and Tim Walz just looked over at him and said, "Well, pass the fucking bill." He didn't say fucking bill, but you know what I'm saying. So I think uh, I'm thinking it went very well. Somebody saying CNN saying isn't saying he's won. Fuck CNN. They're nothing but a Republican shill anyway. The fact of the matter is what any media outlet says doesn't matter. MSNBC is saying that Tim Walz won. It really doesn't matter when it comes down to the bottom line. Vice presidential debates really don't have a lot of impact on the ultimate election. But what it did do is it got people to see Tim Walz, a lot of people to see Tim Walz, both Republicans and Democrats. And you notice what J.D. Vance did. J.D. Vance was not combative. He would say, Kamala's bad at doing something. But then he would say, well, I kind of agree with Tim Walz. He didn't want to get into it because I think Tim Walz would have torn him apart. But I don't think Tim Walz had any intentions of making this confrontational. His job was to sell Kamala Harris, let people know who he is, show his compassion, show his concern and his intelligence. And J.D. Vance did none of those things. Vance tried to gaslight America tonight. Well, that's the standard strategy of every Republican, gaslighting. Great Captain is here. He's saying, ignore the trolls like their parents did. Mods will handle it. Yeah, we're going to get a lot of trolls in here. And when we get the trolls in here, just don't interact with them. They are looking for attention. They are looking for a platform that they can't create on their own. So just ignore them and let uh, let the moderators handle them. The wise one says Vance will not support democracy. He as much as said so. He won't support democracy. So people have to look at that. He's a spokesperson for Donald Trump and the Trump administration. He would not say that Donald Trump lost in 2020 when we all know for a fact that's what happened. And he will not support democracy. As I told you before this debate, the problem with J.D. Vance, yes, he's a lawyer. Yes, he's Ivy League educated. Yes, he's smooth, but he has a problem. He has to stick to Donald Trump's lies. He has to try to sell Donald Trump's lies. And they're so ridiculous and they're so fucking stupid that nobody can do that, no matter how smooth you are. Um, he wasn't going to answer that question. That is some serious shit. Absolutely. That's the one thing that definitely lost it for J.D. Vance today. And you know what's funny? I was looking at reports and hearing about the Truth Social post by Donald Trump. He was losing his shit. He thought J.D. Vance or said J.D. Vance was doing a good job, but he said those moderators are biased toward Tim Walz. I didn't get that at all. I don't think the moderators did a great job, but I don't think they did a bad job. You know, they did what they did. But there was a couple of times where the moderators were talking about the Haitian immigrants in in Springfield, Ohio, and Tim Walz or J.D. Vance suggested that these were illegal aliens, illegal immigrants, and the one of the moderators corrected him on that, and that drove J.D. Vance nuts. He kept talking. They couldn't shut him up. They should have shut his mic off, but they didn't. And then he had to come back and try to explain his lie, and it didn't go well. All right, we're moving along. Love Tim Walz. Say her name. Vance lied as much as Trump. Yeah, he was smoother than Trump. I mean, that's the thing. If people were looking for a dogfight here, that was never going to happen. There was no need for Tim Walz to do that. And J.D. Vance is smarter than Donald Trump. He will try to avoid those fights. And that's why he acquiesced to Tim Walz a few times. He was saying, well, I kind of agree with him. No, you don't. You don't agree with anything Tim Walz or Kamala Harris says, and then you go out and attack Kamala Walz. Everything he said was not supported by any facts or evidence. Everything that Tim Walz said was supported. JD didn't lie. He was very misleading. Win for Walz. He did lie. He did categorically lie. He said he did not believe or support a national abortion ban. He said that categorically. And there is video and audio and documents that say otherwise. He was trying to gaslight. That is a lie. He did lie. Now, for some of you Trump bucks, understand I'm going to block you too. I've got two moderators, and if I see you saying some stupid shit, I don't want you here. I don't need you here. We're not going to listen to your bullshit. Sunny Honey says, "Hey friend, good to see you live." Well, it's good to see you too. Thank you very much. Too late for me to catch this in the morning. Well, Jackie, I will tell you I'm recording this, so it will be the Rational Boomer podcast. You'll be able to hear the whole live after midnight tonight. So get yourself some sleep, but we'll be here for you. Um, let's see here. Vance will declare Trump incompetent, then be president. Scary. Well, that may be true that that's what he would try. But the fact of the matter is Donald Trump is not going to get elected. He's sinking quickly. J.D. Vance is of no help, no help at all. And Donald Trump's just not going to win. So J.D. Vance being VP or trying to pull the 25th Amendment on Donald Trump, I wouldn't doubt that that's what the plan would be. Get rid of Donald Trump and let J.D. Vance be president. This motherfucker has a approval rating of like 27%. Nobody in this country likes J.D. Vance. A lot of people like Tim Walz. MSNBC said Walz won. Anybody who watched it would have to say Walz won. Anybody that says Vance won didn't watch the whole fucking thing. Like I say, in that last moment when Tim Walz asked him, did Donald Trump lose in 2020? He could not answer it. He couldn't support Donald Trump and he couldn't tell the truth. That's where J.D. Vance lost it. MAGA is saying JD won. Well, MAGA is also saying Donald Trump won against Kamala Harris, and we know that's categorically bullshit. That's what they do. They gaslight. Now, the only people that are going to believe that are MAGA. Unfortunately, there are not enough MAGA fucks to win an election. Vance got upset when he was fact checked. He wasn't really fact checked, but he did make comment about it when they said, yeah, that's not true. And it was a ridiculous lie. He was saying that they were illegal aliens in Springfield, Ohio. They are not illegal aliens. And then he tried to quantify it or try to equivocate it. And it was all a bunch of bullshit. And he kept yakking and kept talking. And he looked like he was on the verge of losing it. I will give J.D. Vance credit for being able to hold it together. Donald Trump would have never been able to do that. Vance did exactly what I thought he would do, lie. Absolutely. And there's no doubt he's a much smoother debater than Donald Trump, but of course, fucking anybody is. But he still didn't win this thing because he made no good points. He said nothing memorable. He lied in front of the people, and he couldn't answer a simple question in the end about January 6th. Yeah, Vance denied J6. He could not admit it was what it was. He tried to minimize it, which is what Republicans do. And we all know what happened. I sat in this fucking room on that fucking couch with my wife. I watched J6. Anybody tries to tell me something else happened, they're full of shit. All right, let's see. CBS should have fact checked. Yeah, I think that's a mistake. I don't know why they think that's a better idea. It's not a better idea. It has nothing to do with journalism. I mean, if you're a journalist, you want the facts out there and you don't want lies out there. So if somebody is categorically lying, well, then you should fucking shut it down. I'll watch The Crown be stimulated by you. Not sure what that means, but the ports closed because of Trump and Vance sabotaging the election. I don't know if it's because of Trump and Vance. I will say this, we need everybody to have fairness, whether they are employers or employees. For too long, employees have taken the brunt. They don't get paid what they deserve, and they need to use their ability with unions to fight for what they deserve. I have no problems with that. That's not a Joe Biden situation. This is about greedy corporations. And the person that supports greedy corporations, of course, is Donald Trump, not Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. They're trying to make it fairer or the middle class? That seems like an easy no-brainer. Which one do you want? Do you want to keep feeding the money to the rich people and them taking advantage of us, and we live paycheck to paycheck and have trouble finding housing and health care? It's a no-brainer. Anybody with any intelligence would say no. I watched them carry out Ashley Babbitt right on television. Yeah, you did. And what happened to Ashley Babbitt was what needed to be done in that situation. We have a woman breaking a window into the Capitol illegally, threatening to kill the vice president of the United States. She was told to stay out, not break in. She did it anyway, and she fucked around and found out. I'm sorry somebody had to die there, but the fact of the matter is, had Donald Trump been doing his job, or had Joe Biden been the president and the National Guard had been there would have been a lot more deaths if they continued to do what they are doing. So good luck on January 6, 2025. You try to pull that shit again, it's going to be an entirely different deal. Did the needle move one way or another? You know, to be honest with you, with vice presidential debates, I don't think the needle moves at all. I think it did help to give a clear indication of who J.D. Vance and Tim Walz are, and Tim Walz clearly won that. He said he supported foreign wars, but he's against Ukraine. Absolutely. The reason they're against Ukraine is because they're buddies with Russia and Vladimir Putin. And the reason they're buddies is because Donald Trump thinks he's his best friend. What he doesn't understand about Vladimir Putin is that Vladimir Putin only likes Donald Trump when he can get something from him. After November 5th, when he loses the election, he'll be worth nothing to Vladimir Putin, and Putin won't be taking his fucking calls. Vance was weak on women's rights also. Vance was weak on women's rights. He was weak on health care. He was weak on just telling the truth in general. The whole thing about this, which is going to piss Donald Trump off, is that Vance was smooth, but he was weak. And Donald Trump does not like it when his people are weak. He wants them attacking, he wants them fighting. And J.D. Vance did not do that. It's not in him to do that. I think they made the agreement ahead of time. The agreement to play nice. I mean, I think they did play nice, but then J.D. Vance um, went after Kamala, and you could see that it was pissing off Tim Walz, especially for the fact that what J.D. Vance was doing was fucking flat out lying. So I think the Tim Walz was getting heated up a little bit, and I think it could have gotten more contentious, but I think Tim Walz was told, just keep it cool, just tell him who you are, tell him what we want, sell Kamala, and call him out on his lies. And he did exactly what he was probably doing. Melissa said, I cried watching January 6th. I'll never forget it. Yeah, I can relate to that, Melissa. I didn't cry. I was intrigued by the whole thing, but my wife was very upset about it. And I understand why you'd be upset about it. It's something, it's kind of like the 9/11 situation. We're seeing something that endangers this country that we've never seen before. And it was terrifying on January 6, 2021. Since when is misinformation and lies censorship? Well, that's a good point. Like Tim Walz said, you can't yell fire in a theater. You don't get to lie and then scream about censorship. Um, and a lot of people think censorship in the media is wrong. But if you're a media outlet in this day and age, you have the right to censor anything you want. It's about whether the government censors you or not. Helen Wright says, I wish Tim had said something about that when JD Vance was lying. I think Tim Walz did his job, you know. I think he did the job. I think he did it well. And I think that last shot about J6 and the election and all this stuff, I think he nailed JD Vance to the wall, and there was nothing he could do about it. Uh, Love Walls asking point blank, did Trump lose in 2020? And Vance couldn't answer it. You know what's funny about that? You can ask any Republican, did Donald Trump lose? And they will say the same thing. They can't answer the question. That is the essence of a debate. You get a question, you give an answer. And that was a problem for JD Vance tonight. He didn't give many answers. He would go back on the old script and talk about immigration. I did like when he was talking about the immigration, how Kamala was doing bad things. JD was saying that. And then Tim Walz just looked over at him and says, well, pass the bill. He had no answer for that. He knows what was going on there. He knows that Donald Trump shut down that bipartisan border bill strictly for political reasons, didn't give a shit about the people coming across the border or the dangers with the border. That bipartisan bill would have been the strongest bill we've ever seen for the border. It was negotiated with Republicans and Democrats. And one guy, one fucking clown, Donald Trump said, shut it down because that'll make Joe Biden look good. JD Vance stood right beside Donald Trump. And this is something I've always said. I don't care what they say after January 5th or November 5th. I don't care what any Republican says. If you stood with Donald Trump up until this point, or even past the 2020 election, if you stood with Donald Trump, you are an accessory after the fact. You are an accessory to trying to overthrow this country, and there is no forgiveness for you there. I just can't do it. I'm getting a few goofballs out here and getting rid of those motherfuckers. You're right about Vance not admitting that Trump lost the election. Absolutely. Do you think Donald Trump will be upset that Vance made him look bad by being somewhat competent? There's something to be said about that. If somebody goes out and says, well, JD Vance did better than Donald Trump, that's going to piss off Donald Trump. He's going to try to support JD Vance. But when it comes out afterwards that he lied and he got caught, that he probably lost this thing, Donald Trump will lose his shit. This may encourage him to do one more debate with Kamala, and I hope he does. He may think he has to save this thing because JD didn't. Seemed like JD blamed everything on immigrants. It's not just JD, it's all the Republicans. That's the only talking point they have. But now they have a problem because they didn't pass the bipartisan bill. So they're trying to sell something, sell a problem, pin it on Kamala for a problem they are perpetuating. They aren't passing the bill. Let's see here. So funny when Vance said there are laws in place for pre-existing conditions. Yeah, it's called ACA. That's exactly right. The laws in place for pre-existing conditions are about ACA. But you motherfuckers told us you want to get rid of ACA because you've got a concept of a plan. Donald Trump, 9 years ago, told us he had a plan for health care. He said it was better than the ACA. He said it was cheaper and it was more inclusive. We have still yet to see that plan. And then, when asked about it in the debate, Donald Trump says, well, I've got a concept. How long does this take you, motherfucker? 9 years to come up with a healthcare plan? Sounds to me like you don't have a plan. You're just trying to own the libtards again and trying to just take down anything that Obama or Joe Biden has done, and that's it. Yeah, we got some Lulus out there. Trump will scapegoat Vance when he loses. Oh, yeah, he will. He already does that to a certain extent, and people will say, well, JD Vance is dragging down Donald Trump. Really? You need JD Vance to drag down a guy who's got 34 felony convictions, that's been found liable of sexual assault, that stole classified documents and disseminated them to adversarial countries? Really? JD Vance is dragging him down? I don't fucking think so. I think Donald Trump is plenty to knock his ass down. Tim was honest. JD was an attorney. Yeah, I think you're right about that. I don't think JD was a good attorney tonight. I think he was. hamstrung by Donald Trump. Remember the attorneys that represented Donald Trump in the criminal trials? They told a lot of lies, mainly because Donald Trump said, you tell them this or else. Donald Trump's not a lawyer. He's not a smart man. And when these people are complicit with Donald Trump and say anything Donald Trump tells them to say, well, there's a fucking problem then, because they're going to be called out for their lies, just like JD was. Why didn't they take Trump's passport? I don't know if they took Trump's passport. And if they didn't, I don't know why. Why haven't they done a lot of things to Donald Trump? I think a lot of things are going to change after the election when he loses, but it's bullshit that we have to wait until that point. Trump doesn't care about this country. He cares about himself. Yeah, that goes without question. Donald Trump isn't in this for the country or for the people. He's in it to save his ass and make money. Thankfully, it's not going to work. Donald Trump is not going to win. Why did JD keep saying that the Harris administration? Do people realize the VP doesn't make policy? Yeah, that's the one thing. Why hasn't Kamala done anything about it the 3.5 years she's been in office? Well, she's the VP. Joe Biden's the president. You blame Joe Biden all these years, and now that Kamala is there, you want to try to blame her. Joe's the boss. Joe makes the decision. Even if Kamala disagrees with Joe, she's got to go along with Joe. That's the way it works. So to blame Kamala, that's pretty weak. That's pretty fucking weak. Miscellaneous Amanda. Okay, I downloaded this app again just for this live. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And as I've told folks before, I'll record this live, and then it will become the Rational Boomer podcast right after midnight. You can find it on YouTube. You can find it on Spotify, the audio version on Spotify, the video version on YouTube. So even if you miss this, you don't hear all of it, and you want to, you'll be able to access it. Does JD Vance know the job as the vice president? JD Vance has only been a senator for 2 years. He has no political experience prior to this. I don't know that he knows what to do other than what Donald Trump tells him to do, and that's not good advice. We can't get rid of him fast enough. I've lost my patience for MAGA. Yeah, I think we all have. We're getting tired of it. We're tired of this fucking thing hanging around our neck. We want to be done with it so we can go on and make some progress. Only way we can do that at this point is ride this time out until the election, elect Kamala Harris, and then kick Donnie Trump to the curb. Vance acts so uppity on stage. Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? That's what Republicans do. I'm better than you. Tim Walz doesn't do that. Tim Walz tells us he's one of us. What do you think people are going to do when they see that? How are they going to react to that? I think we already know. Pat Suarez, how did Walz do in your opinion? I think he won. No question. He answered questions. He had facts. J.D. Vance had nothing. He lied. He said that he didn't support a national abortion ban, and there's evidence that says he does. At the end, when he was asked whether or not Donald Trump lost the election, he couldn't answer. In spite of all the court cases and all the evidence that proved that Joe Biden won fair and square, he could not say that. Now, it's not that he's not smart enough to understand that. It's because he's obliged to Donald Trump. Donald Trump is forcing him to tell that lie. And that's what I said going into this debate. J.D. Vance could be as smart as anyone in this world, but he's stuck having to push these lies, these stupid, ridiculous, ignorant lies that Donald Trump keeps pushing. And you can be as smart as you want to be, but if you have to tell lies, you're forced to tell lies, it's just not going to wear well. Mario Rodriguez, love you, Boomer. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Mario. I appreciate that. He has no experience in anything. Well, he wrote a book. And he's kind of a tech bro. He's got buddies in the tech business like Peter Thiel and Elon Musk. And a lot of people think that they kind of put him in the place to be the VP so that when, assuming Donald Trump ever had a chance of becoming president, that they would not expect Donald Trump to last the full 4 years one way or another, and then JD Vance would be the president. Let me ask you this: after what you saw tonight, what you've seen over the last year or so, you want JD Vance as president? He may be smoother than Donald Trump, but he's no better. In fact, he's probably worse. Vance keeps a lie going about her power. She has two jobs, but made it sound like she had more. Well, this is what Republicans do. The only thing Republicans can really do, they have no facts, they have no evidence. All they can try to do is discredit their opponents. They've been doing it since Hillary Clinton. All they did is try to discredit her. They had no platform. They tried to discredit Joe Biden. Didn't work with Joe Biden. It's not working with Kamala Harris. This is all they know. This is all they do. And it's becoming a tired and boring strategy, and people are getting sick of it. And Donald Trump doesn't know what to do um, because he has no substance. Somebody said the borders RBS was all Vance had. Yeah, he kept trying to say that Kamala was the border czar, and she was not. Fact is, she was not. But they keep trying to pin that on her. Um, Trudy poetry or Trude poetry. Vance is so creepy. Yeah, he's a little creepy. He's a little slimy. He is slicker than Donald Trump, but fuck, anybody's slicker than Donald Trump. But he is a little weird, a little creepy. Uh, you got some Trumple fucks in here, but not for long because we block those bitches. MAGA love. Oh, okay. You're gone. You just have to bear with me when I start my blocking thing because got to get those motherfuckers out of here as quick as possible. Vance mentioned Kamala's name 38 times. She is not the president. Well, that's exactly right. He's just using the talking points that Donald Trump told him to use. That's what he's doing. And it's not working well for him. Celestina says, thank you for all you do for this election. Blessings to you and your family. Same back to you. I appreciate all of what you folks are doing. As I've said before, I can sit up here and talk forever, and it doesn't mean anything unless we have folks like out there coming to listen and then passing that information on. It's not about me, it's about all of us. And we got to stick together. We got to stick together and do what we've got to do. And we've got to keep doing it until it's done. Miss Nice T says, I think it's a crying shame the way people don't even understand the basic duties of government. Yeah, I agree with you. One of the things that I found most disconcerting after Donald Trump became president is just how many stupid people there are in this country. It's a tragedy. And that's why I say, anytime we have uh, a problem in this country, like the hurricane with Hurricane Helene, the government needs to get behind it, put some money into it, put some work into it to help get people whole again. They've got to do that. And that's exactly what Joe Biden's doing. But we have an epidemic of stupid in this country. There's a lot. It's important that we have smart people, educated people in this country coming up. And if we can't get them in college because it's too expensive, or just because they aren't exposed to the right things, we need to do something as a country to make sure um, that this country is better off. I saw Stop the Steal on HBO. Oh my God, he should not be president. Everyone should see it. Yeah, there's a lot of video out there. Vance got debunked all night long. Yes, he did. He said some things. He was smooth about it, but none of it was real. None of it was truthful. It was all gaslighting. And I think people realize that. There'll be some MAGA dumb fucks out there that will buy into it, but you're never going to change their minds anyway, anyhow. Ruben Gallego, Democrat for Senate, and Jonathan Nez, Democrat for the House. I think Ruben Gallego's not going to have any problem at all winning that seat in Arizona. He's up against Carrie Lake, and she's taken a great big shit. Um, Vance's answer to Hurricane Helene should have been to draw a better cone. Yeah. Um, Hold on, I think I got another Trump book. Now, you know what? Sometimes people will come back to me and say, "You blocked me and it wasn't fair." Watch what you say. Just watch what you say. If you say something that sounds like a Trump fuck, I'm going to block you. That's just the way it is. Um, I'm hopeful that Colin Allred will beat lying Ted Cruz for the Senate. Well, I know Colin Allred is doing pretty well out there, and I also know that Ted Cruz is starting to panic. He's begging for money right now because Colin Allred is saturating the area um, with his advertising, and Ted Cruz can't keep up with it. I saw Stop the Steal. Okay, we saw that. I remember a time when natural disasters weren't used for political points, and they shouldn't be. These are Americans that are in trouble. We should take care of them regardless of who they vote for. There was a time when there wasn't the divisiveness we have in politics, and it all started with Donald Trump and the MAGA movement. That's why we need to eradicate them. Do you think Vance is just a plant from Project 2025 and replace Trump? I think that's a distinct possibility. I mean, it sounds crazy. It sounds like a conspiracy theory, but the fact of the matter is, when Donald Trump or the Republicans or the evangelicals or the Trump fucks are involved, anything is possible. Um, it's apparent tonight that Vance is told what to say with no original thoughts. Well, I guarantee you that's the case. Just like his lawyers in his trials, he tells them what to say, and he's a dumb fuck, and they have to somehow repeat it and try to make it sound smart. Now, J.D. Vance did a yeoman's job of being smooth, but the fact is, the lies are the lies. He can't he can't account for them, and he can't back them up. Um, Lynn Cambry says it's depressing how many morons are out there. Yeah, I'd have to agree. Um, Excellent performance by Walz. I think so too. I think Tim was a little nervous, like Kamala in the first 10, 15 minutes. He was a little nervous. He wasn't sure what he's doing. But once he got his feet underneath him, once he got talking, he was fine. And he was far better than JD Vance. And then the Repubs want to get rid of the Department of Education. I don't know what they hope to accomplish by doing that, but you're absolutely right. They have a hard on for the Department of Education. Remember when Donald Trump said he loves the uneducated? I think he needs uneducated people to vote for him because they're the only ones that will. So naturally, they'd want to get rid of the Department of Education. Did you see the commercial with a woman speaking up about being groped by Trump? No, I have not seen that, but I hope Donald Trump gets to see it because he's going to be pissed. Um, Vance was smooth and they were overly friendly toward each other, but Walz still came out on top. Yeah, that was the one thing about that that debate. I think a lot of people were expecting something more contentious, more of an attack dog type of thing. But we're dealing with two different kinds of people. We're dealing with a different kind of situation. We're dealing with vice presidential nominees. And secondly, Donald Trump wasn't involved in this debate. Donald Trump is the one that will lose his shit. But Tim Walz did shake up. He got JD Vance shook a couple of times. And while JD Vance was smoother than Donald Trump, he still was spinning around for a little bit. The first question asked was over the head of 80% of MAGA. I know many checked out. Well, that could be. I don't really worry about MAGA because no matter what you tell them, you're not going to convince them otherwise. They're going to vote for Donald Trump. So you might as well throw that away and expect 25, 27% of this country is going to vote for Donald Trump regardless. But that's okay. There are moderates, there are independents, there are, of course, Democrats, and a lot of Republicans that can't stomach Donald Trump anymore. They just can't take it. The things he says and the things he does, like the immigrants eating pets, that's been a bridge too far. Roe v. Wade is a big factor for this election. And Donald Trump has said that he's responsible for doing it. He's proud of doing it. J.D. Vance has even got a harder stance on abortion. That abortion issue is going to be a deciding factor in this upcoming election. Trump is not going to be happy with Vance. He was too nice, still a chameleon. Yeah, he is. He was too nice, and Donald Trump will not like that. He likes attack dogs. That's why he gets lawyers in court yelling at judges, which usually costs them money when they do that, or certainly embarrassment. He will have wanted J.D. Vance to attack harder. He's going to complain about the moderators and how it was unfair. Isn't it amazing that everything Donald Trump does, he loses? And every time he loses, he said it was unfair, it was rigged, it was fixed against him. Right, Donnie, the rest of the world is wrong, and you're the only one that's right. My daughter said she didn't want to sit on the sofa during the debate as it may show support for JD. I get it, man. I get it. And I don't know if that's right, but hey, I give her respect for considering JD Vance and not embarrassing him further because he was embarrassed. Tony says, I love how the Republican answers always deflect, avoid, and lie or complain about something that Kamala did. There is no substance. There are no facts. There's no truth. Vance raised by a single drug addicted mom, a blue collar mother and father, his grandmother. Yeah, it's a different story every time with J.D. Vance. And he wrote that book, Hillbilly Elegy, and he was down and stayed with his grandmother for a time in the hills of Appalachia. But then he went home and stayed in Ohio too. I don't know what his life was. Clearly, there's some things that went wrong based on his mental acuity, but I can't believe anything he says. Most of it's bullshit. The only thing Vance did well was speaking in complete sentences. Well, here's what you got to understand. J.D. Vance is 40 years younger than Donald Trump, and he hasn't been as diminished as Donald Trump. J.D. Vance is still young. Donald Trump is 78 going on 79, 80, and he's lost it already. Mentally, he's not there anymore. So it's not hard to look better than Donald Trump at this point. Anybody could do this. Uh, Air Enterprises says, good night, my friend. Another victory for the Harris Walz teams. Well, have yourself a good rest. Get rested up. The fight continues tomorrow up through November 5th. We're going to kick some Trump-la-fuck ass, and I couldn't be more confident than ever. Will the Republicans rebrand and distance themselves from MAGA? I don't know if they will, but they need to. When they lose this as big as I think they're going to lose this, they're going to have to rebrand and come back with something different because the MAGA thing just not working. The debate made Trump look worse because it was so civil. Trump can't be civil. Yeah, it made Trump look worse because he couldn't come close to accomplishing a debate like this. But as somebody else has said, Donald Trump wants the chaos. He wants the noise. So the fact that JD didn't do it, it may be problematic for Donald Trump. He's going to be making excuses. He's going to claim that JD won. He's going to say the moderators are unfair. He's just a whiny little bitch. He's going to be whining constantly. Creepy JD kept saying, my three beautiful children. Yeah. Three beautiful brown children. I wonder how he likes that. It's ironic that J.D. Vance would be the vice presidential candidate for and is a running mate with the most racist person to ever run for the presidency. And that's saying something. We had some fucked up racist people running like George Wallace and stuff. CBS fact checked on their website. I haven't checked it yet. Yeah, I heard about that. I think most people won't look at it. But I think the debate went well enough for Tim Walz. I think he did a fine job. I think he did the job he was set out to do. And J.D. Vance looked like an idiot. Who said when you lose, you will peacefully relinquish power? I think that Tim Walz said that, but J.D. Vance wouldn't own up to that. What effect will the Iran, Israeli, and strike have on Democrats? I don't think it'll have much effect on it. I mean, let's look at the strike thing. Nobody's a stronger union supporter than Joe Biden. Donald Trump has told Elon Musk that he was proud that he would break strikes and that he would fire people that went on strike. Donald Trump's not a good supporter of the unions. And in terms of the war in the Middle East, you have to understand these wars have been going on for decades and decades. They come and they go. And I'm not trying to diminish the importance or the tragedy of it all, but for decades, well before I was born, presidents have been trying to work this situation out. Nobody's been able to do it completely or permanently. Some people have gotten temporary peace settlements. Even Jimmy Carter, who's 100 years old today, he had a peace agreement with the Middle East, but it never lasts. There's a lot of things that have to be done, and presidents of the United States only have so much power. Vance said Trump honored the peaceful transfer of power. That was disgraceful. Absolutely. Donald Trump categorically did not honor the peaceful transfer of power, unless, of course, having your people say hang Mike Pence is his idea of peaceful transfer of power. Kamala doesn't need a second debate after tonight. No, she doesn't need a second debate. There's almost no reason to do it. Some people think Donald Trump will be coaxed into it because he didn't think that this one gave him enough help. But I tell you one thing, you want to know where Donald Trump's mindset is? There was 60 Minutes had something that they do every presidential election. They had set up an interview with Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. They were both going to be there and the interview was going to happen. Guess who bailed on that motherfucker? Not Kamala, Donald Trump. Donald Trump is not showing up for the 60 Minutes interview. I think Kamala should do it anyway and use up all the time as opposed to half the time should Donald Trump show up. Are you okay? You look very tired. And I would say, what kind of question is that? I don't know if you're a friend or a foe. So you're gone. Fuck you. Let's not worry about how I look. If anybody's going to talk about how somebody else looks, whether it be me or somebody on this page, you're gone. That's not the topic at hand. If you're going to play that fucking game, I don't need you here, whether you're a follower or not. I don't care if you ask me if I look tired. Maybe I do look tired. So what? I'm 64 fucking years old. Stick with the topic or get the fuck out. You look fine, healthy and hearty, got a little sun. Yeah, exactly. I'm fine. I'm as fine as a 64-year-old man can be. I can get up, I can walk, I can sleep, I can do all the things I need to do. When I start getting sick and I can't do some of these things, I'll fucking tell you. Are you reading where there was a picture with Felon with president of the Docksmiths Union? Yeah, I've seen that, and I've heard the guy talk too. You can support Donald Trump all you want, but he's not going to be president, so fuck yourself. I missed the debate. Who won? Tim Walz won. Tim Walz won. And I think the pivot point on the whole thing is when JD or Tim Walz asked JD Vance, did Donald Trump lose the election? And he could not answer. He could not answer at that point. And that was damaging to JD Vance. Anything positive he did up to that point, and there wasn't much, anything he did positive up to that point was washed away. He fucked up there. I love how you keep it real. Well, thank you. I try. Trump is scared of being fact checked in the 60-minute interview. He's pathetic. Yeah. It's funny how Tim Wall or JD Vance and Donald Trump hate being fact checked. JD Vance even whined about it. He wasn't being fact checked, but he didn't like the questions because he didn't have the right answers. We were supposed to fact check. Look, motherfucker, this is a debate for the upcoming presidential election. We as viewers, aren't we at least entitled to the truth or facts? Isn't that what we should at least expect? That's why I was upset about CBS saying we're not going to fact check. Is Harris visiting Florida soon? I don't know, but she should be. She should definitely get to Florida. Oh my God, you're so funny. I wish I was your neighbor. Well, I appreciate that. I don't know if being my neighbor is a great thing or not. As Great Captain is saying, please ignore the trolls. There is no point in arguing with them. If I see the weirdest thing, I'm blocking them because they can't do anything but hurt the platform and cause chaos. We're not going to have chaos here. We're going to be people of a like mind coming together in support to put this fucking Trump-la-fuck bullshit down once and for all in November. Um, the rules of the debate were not to be fact checking. Ask the network. I don't know that that rule was actually set out, but the talk was they weren't going to fact check. But when you tell such an egregious lie where people are dying or people are getting hurt or people are having to hide in their fucking houses about a lie, don't you think we as a people, we as an audience deserve to hear the truth? Apparently JD Vance, apparently Donald Trump don't think so, but I fucking do. And if you have a problem with what the network did, too bad. Too bad. Um, I, Vance never answered questions about separation of families in the border. No, he didn't answer any questions of any substance because he knew if he did, he would look stupid. So it's better just to gaslight or not answer. I can't believe Vance actually said, you guys said you weren't going to fact check and maybe stop lying. Yeah, exactly. There's JD Vance whining just like Donald Trump. If you just answered the fucking questions, you wouldn't have to worry about being fact checked. That's the one thing I love about Donald Trump. He says, well, they fact checked me all over the place in my debate, but they never fact checked Kamala. Oh, really? I wonder why that is. Because you lied, Donald Trump lied, and he continued to lie, and Kamala didn't lie. That's why she wasn't fact checked, you stupid fuck. Thank you for sharing this. God bless you and your family. Thank you. 60s are awesome. Just turned. Way to go. Yeah, you know what? I like the 60s. My kids are grown. My wife and I can do what we want. It's wonderful. Let's see here. We are all tired of the misinformation, the lies, the GOP. I don't know this word, vituperation and insults. That's a new word. I haven't heard that one. I'm pretty good with words. I never heard that one before. I think the blue team won tonight in the debate. I don't think there's any question about it. I mean, at this point, weren't looking at who was talking louder or interrupting more. It was pretty even in that sense. But if we're coming down to facts and truth, there's no question Tim Walz won. JD Vance didn't tell any truths, and he kind of backed off a little bit. Debbie, love you too. Um, uh, Tamara says, you're my favorite political guy. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Project Coconut Tree. Okay. Now I got to see who this motherfucker is. I don't know if you're joking. You know, be careful when you joke like that because I might take it a different way and I may just block you. They default to insults because they aren't intelligent enough to defend themselves like their leader. Yeah, exactly. They default to insults or trying to diminish or discredit their opponents. There is no substance, there is no strategy, there is no evidence. That's all they do. They've been doing that since Hillary Clinton. Um, well, some things are so ridiculous it's irresponsible to fact check, and they did. You're absolutely right. There are some things so ridiculous that they force being fact checked. Now, if somebody's upset about it being fact checked, let's look at what they fact checked. Something that was an absolute fucking lie, something gaslighting. He got caught and then he tried to explain it away. Somebody needed to straighten that out because there are people in Springfield, Ohio suffering and scared to death because of this motherfucker on this debate and his buddy Donald Trump. Uh, Michigan, love your content. I love Michigan. I love the UP. Love Detroit. I've been to Michigan a lot. I love that state. Was it a close win? No, it wasn't close at all. JD Vance is relatively smooth because he's 40 years old, not 80, and he isn't a complete idiot like Donald Trump, but he told no truths. He lied constantly. He got caught in lies. He got embarrassed, kind of what I expected. Um, I wish the connection of JD Vance to Project 2025 was made better. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of connections with JD Vance to Project 2025. They're trying to get away from that, but it's just not going to work. I mean, JD Vance wrote the foreword to a book, the guy who wrote Project 2025, and they decided to hold back on that book because it would make JD Vance look bad. Fact is, he did write the foreword. And good luck publishing that book on Project 2025 after Donnie Trump and JD Vance gets their ass kicked. Vance kept stating Harris's policies. It's not her policies. Last 2 years was inactive for Congress. Yeah, that's something that has to be considered. The Republicans had control of the House and they did zero. They did fucking nothing. That's not Kamala's fault. That's not JD or Donald. I'm getting mixed up here. That's not Kamala's fault. That's not Joe Biden's fault. It's the Republicans in the House of Representatives' fault for not getting anything fucking done. I can't wait till someone says JD spoke better than Trump. He will lose his mind, and I can't wait. Yeah, I agree. Donald Trump can't stand not getting the attention. So all during the debate, he was making comments on Truth Social. Oh, those moderators, they're unfair. JD's doing a great job. Uh, Tim Walz isn't as smart as JD Vance. Well, I think we found out that that's not true. It's going to be interesting to see what Donald Trump says throughout the night into tomorrow. He's going to try to start being more cleaning up. I'm just looking up the debate. The spin rooms are going on right now. I heard that JD Vance was going to go in the spin room. That tells me he knew he was going to lose before he walked in there. Both exaggerated, but Vance told the lie after lie. He cannot be trusted. Everybody's bad, but Vance was a little worse. That's always the excuse of a Trumplafuck. Well, all politicians are bad. Well, all politicians have issues. But when one issue with one politician is about overthrowing this country, marginalizing people of color, LGBTQ, women, there's no fucking comparison. Bella says, I think that was a missed opportunity. What was a missed opportunity? It went pretty much like everybody would have expected. Vance is an attorney. Walz is a teacher. He's not used to being on the national stage. Well, then he kicked ass in spite of that. Vance has only been a politician for a year and a half, 2 years. Okay. Tim Walz was in Congress for 12 years. He's been a governor for 6 years. Tim Walz is far more experienced in politics than Vance ever hoped to be. I think JD Vance doesn't know what a VP means or do. He doesn't care. It's just all about his ego. That's what Republicans are about. It's all about their fucking egos. Um, he's seething right now. Love it. Yeah, I'll guarantee you Donald Trump is upset. He was hoping for some kind of big win so that he could be saved in spite of his horrible showing. He didn't get it. He didn't get it. Um, yes, sir, but how do you get right wingers to see your content? I don't really care if they do. Like I say, I can sit with a Trumplefuck across the table. I can argue for hours and hours. I can give evidence. I can show testimony. I can show witnesses, and they're never going to believe me. So, what's the point of getting into the debate and the argument with them? Instead, I'd like to talk to people of a reasonable mind, maybe on the fence, maybe we're Republicans, and explain why they need to do what they need to do and vote for Kamala Harris in order to save democracy. I'm under no delusion that I'll ever convince a Trump-lefuck to think my way. It's just not going to happen. After um, after the election, hopefully some of these people take a look at themselves and what they've been following and make better choices. But I'm not confident of that. They aren't bright people. They're part of a cult. Lewis says, I love hopeful listening. I love how hopeful listening to you makes me. Well, you should be hopeful. There is no way Donald Trump's winning the election in November. I'll guarantee you that. I mean, coming into this debate, we had a lot of people saying, I don't know, Tim Walz, I don't know if he's going to do well. And I said, he's going to do well because he's personable, he's smart, and he has the truth on his side. JD Vance isn't going to do well because he's slippery, he's slick, but he's going to spew nothing but lies. And guess what happened? When it was all said and done, Tim Walz won. How do you think I think Walz won? We've talked about that quite a bit. Why some people want to turn this great country into a dictatorship is beyond me. Yeah, that's a good question. You know, if people have said this, they want a dictatorship. Now, one of the moderators said that 50% of this country want mass deportations. That's got to be bullshit. That's got to be a fixed poll. That's just not the fucking case. Nobody, the vast majority of the people cannot support that. I don't know where they got that poll, but it's got to be bullshit. What do you think the MAGA is going to do once the Lord and Savior loses his November? Well, they're going to whine and complain a lot. They're not going to get violent because they have no power. People are going to step away from Donald Trump and MAGA, and they'll end up going out with a whimper and they'll crawl back under their rocks. There'll be some that stand up and still try to push this forward. There'll be some politician that tries to take over the lead thinking that's going to do something. But all the credibility and all the credibility for these fucks will be gone and they will fade away. Vance said that for Trump, Congress wouldn't pass it. I wish Walz said that for Biden. I'm not sure what you mean, Tammy. Trump won't let Vance get attention. Oh, you can guarantee that. Donald Trump does not want JD Vance to be great. He does not want him to be successful because that would outshine him. And that is the ultimate insult to Donald Trump. The indoctrination from you is crazy. Do you even know what the word indoctrination is? Oh, oops, you're gone. Sorry. How can Trumpers listen to him and think what he says is okay? That's a good question. And again, it goes back to what I've said before. I think we are in the midst of an epidemic of stupid people. And honestly, I think that's the case. And it's something we need to address. I don't know how we address it. I don't know if we get them. I don't know if we get them some kind of mental health care. But of course, the Republicans don't want anybody to get mental health care. So I don't know. Walz closing was great. Looking into the camera, talking to the American people speaks volumes. You're exactly right, Debbie. He did what Kamala Harris did. He wasn't talking about himself. He wasn't talking about the presidential candidate. He was talking about what they can do for us. And that is an important strategy. Republicans can't do that because they don't do anything for anybody except the rich. Tim Walz did the exact right thing to do. All right, moving on. Just got here. How do you feel about the debate? I feel Tim Walz won easily. Trump pulled out of the 60 Minutes interview. Yes, he did. And that shows you what a cowardly pussy ass bitch he is. Vance destroyed it. You got 13 followers and one more block. Just repeating all the MSNBC talking points. Yeah, that one was blocked, so we're good there. What was Don Jr. trying to pull? I don't know what was going on with Don Jr. I was watching the debate, and Don Jr. is just a goofy drug addict, so I don't really give a fuck what he does. Thank you for your honesty. Thank you. Um, Tien says, I listen to so much content on the right side, and it's nothing like this account. It's all emotion. Absolutely. And that's that's what we've got to understand. Everything is about emotion. Everything is about reaction with the Republicans. And if you have a problem in front of you, the best thing you can do is try to slide the emotion out. Stop going into a panic. Stop reacting. Think about what you're doing, make the right choice, and everything works out better. Now, Bell says the Project 2025 miss. I think what you're suggesting that there was an opportunity missed, that it wasn't brought up. It was brought up, and it wasn't brought up maybe as much as you'd like. But it really depends on how the conversations and the questions go. So maybe they could have spent more time on Project 2025. But I think Tim Walz did make a very good point about it and did a good job attaching it to Donald Trump and JD Vance. It's scary how much power JD thinks he'll have if elected VP. He really believes Harris has it now. Yeah, I don't think he honestly does. Somebody else said this. I don't think he understands the job of a vice president. And what JD Vance has to understand is being a vice president like Kamala Harris with Joe Biden's one thing, but when you're a VP to Donald Trump, you're going to have no power, and you better toe the line or they're going to send people out to fucking hang you. So I don't know why anybody would want that job. MSNBC was just saying something about Don Jr. Well, it's on in the background here, but I can't watch it. So if you hear of something, just let us know here. Um, there are people coming in here saying, oh, JD Vance did a great job. Tell us you're stupid without telling us you're stupid. Um, somebody called me a girly man. Oh, I'd be an ugly girl. I gotta fucking tell you. Um, Don Jr. thing was something with the Secret Service. I don't know what though. Yeah. You speak for millions of us. Thank you. Well, I hope that's true. I want to, the reason I do this is to try to get the facts, try to keep the emotions out of it, and spill it out here on TikTok and the podcast and Instagram and Facebook so that people are better informed, and hopefully they pass it on, because just me talking isn't going to do any good. It's when people are better informed and they start talking about it. So you're as helpful or more helpful than anything I could do. He's going to pull the 25th Amendment on Trump regarding his mental decline. Well, he should. But again, Donald Trump's not going to win the presidency. So hopes and dreams, motherfucker, you ain't going to get it. Um, JD has the same answer for 95% of his questions. Yeah, he always went back to the same thing: immigration, inflation, and all this stuff. Bottom line is immigration would be under control if Donald Trump allowed them to pass the bipartisan border bill. But he shut it down because he's worried about how it will make him look and how it will make Kamala and Joe Biden look. In terms of inflation, well, we were down under 2.5% this past month. We were up at 7, 8%, and Joe Biden has brought it down. So don't tell me about fucking inflation. We have to be careful with SCOTUS. Well, after we win the election, we need to address SCOTUS, and we need to straighten that shit out. There's a couple of things could be done, expand it. You're right. Something has to be done. Vance lost the debate bigly when he refused to say Trump lost. You're absolutely right. I think that was the turning point. I think that's when everything went to shit. I mean, he wasn't winning up to that point, but that pretty much stuck a a needle in the balloon. Um, Vance never answered a question. That's true. As Van Jones said, Vance learned how to debate with the best at Yale. He's just he is just trained whatever, but he still lost. I saw the teacher, father, and community leader, vice president in Walz tonight. Yeah, and I think that was the goal, to see who Tim Walz was. He's a naturally likable person, and they wanted to get that out there. He wanted to push back against JD Vance, which he did. He did a great job. I don't care. I mean, it wasn't, I think a lot of people were affecting a knockdown, drag out fight and just going hand to hand combat. That wasn't the way it was going to be. There was no benefit in Tim Walz doing that. And besides, JD Vance was trying to play a different game. He wanted to do the opposite of Donald Trump, which will get him in trouble with Donald Trump, but he acquiesced. He said things like, well, I think Tim and I agree on this. I think Tim made a good point, and I'm sorry your son saw a shooting. He was pulling back, and Donald Trump is going to perceive that as weak, and that's going to be a problem for JD Vance. Please keep this up after the election. Oh yeah, I'm going to keep talking after the election. We got a lot of things to deal with. Once the Democrats are in, we need somebody to hold them accountable to do the things they claim they're going to do. We've got all kinds of trials going on for Donald Trump. Yeah, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to keep doing this. I keep writing Walz, but it puts a T in. Yeah. A lot of people call him Waltz, Waltz. It's not, it's Walz. I would love to hear what JD says to his wife in private. He's a Trump puppet. Yeah. Did you hear there was a rumor going around that JD Vance's wife filed for divorce? There was a lot of creators out there putting this out. It was all bullshit. It was all a conspiracy theory. And you know what? I wish Democrats would be better than the Republicans, but when they do shit like that, it makes me it embarrasses me for the Democrats. Mike Tess, I've noticed a change in Walz, and it's the DNC control. No, I have not noticed anything. But here's the thing about Tim Walz. I said this when he first came in. Tim Walz came in like a wrecking ball, as Miley Cyrus would have said. Very funny, very outgoing, and um, very accommodating. I said at that time, this is great for Tim Walz to be introduced to the country this way, but he is going to need to pull it back. You don't want to take the attention away from Kamala Harris. Tim Walz is going to have to level it out a little bit, and he's done that. And this person says, Waltz choked. Now you just choked, motherfucker, because you're gone. Waltz choked. The fuck were you watching? Rap says, thank you for being here every day. Thank you for showing up and watching every day. Um, Vance didn't have an answer for Trump blocking the border bill. No, he didn't. Rachel Maddow said one guy was smooth and the other guy won. That's exactly right. That's very well put by Rachel Maddow. That's exactly what happened. And frankly, once Tim Walz got settled down, he was a little nervous at first, like Kamala was in the first debate, but he did fine. He wasn't awkward. He wasn't. He just wasn't a lawyer and talking. He was talking like we the people, and I think that's what people will gravitate to. They want people that they understand that are like them, working for them. I didn't think housing costs were less under Trump. No, they weren't. They weren't less than under Trump. Again, JD Vance, Donald Trump just says shit. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. Intelligent people saw through Vance and the fraud he was tonight. I don't think there's any question. Since John Jr. picked JD, possible overthrow in the Trump world. Trump's got no chance to fucking do anything. I'm not even worried about the election because Donald Trump has pretty much destroyed himself. Was that a debate of mortal enemies? It was a pretty civilized debate, finally. Yeah, it was a relatively civilized debate, and that's what it should be. Donald Trump was everything that's wrong with politics. People are used to Donald Trump being contentious and starting fights and calling names. This is more what a debate should have been. I think a lot of people were hoping for a knockdown, drag out fight, but that wasn't going to happen. Um, hey, Mike, Sammy here. Did you see Eric's bricklaying skills on display in Georgia? I'm guessing you're talking about Eric Trump. No, I didn't see that. I don't know what that's about. Blamed everything on Kamala, stuff she was not totally not responsible for or involved in. Well, that's their target. They've got to try to discredit Kamala Harris. So they'll say she did things she didn't do or didn't do things that she did do. It's childish. It's immature and it doesn't work. Um, JD spent all night attacking Kamala instead of addressing the questions. Yeah, he absolutely did that, but that's what all Republicans do. They've done it with Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, and now Kamala Harris. That's just standard fare for these dumb fucks. And it keeps not working. You would think they would stop it, but they don't. TJ the Plumbers, just reminding folks that as much as we do the TikToks here on TikTok, you can also get the TikToks on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. We have the Rational Boomer podcast, which we do every day. You can get it audio version on Spotify, or you can get the video version on YouTube. Just go in there, write Rational Boomer, and you will find it. Now, those of you that are in this live, I will tell you now that I'm recording this live, and this will be the Rational Boomer podcast for tomorrow. It'll go up after midnight or so, and you'll be able to hear the whole thing if you missed it. Who do you think won? Walz won, no question. Did anyone do fact checking on Vance? Once there was kind of a fact check, and JD Vance cried about it, and Donald Trump whined about it. Nobody won the debate. The debate would not change a single mind. Well, Jim, somebody did win the debate. Unless you're oblivious, somebody did win the debate. Now, whether it changed anybody's mind, that's a different story. Because as I've said, Trump-la-fucks could see a picture of Donald Trump and JD Vance committing some egregious crime, and it wouldn't change their mind. People that are already voting for Kamala Harris certainly not going to change their mind. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Anybody who is out there that say, "Well, I'm not sure yet. I'm undecided." Well, then you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And this person says, Vance killed it. Yeah, so did Donald Trump, didn't he? Fuck you. You're gone. Um, we got a lot of goofballs out here tonight. And I'm good with that. People always say, "Does it bother you when the Trump-la-fucks show up?" Nah, I'm glad I'm getting in their head. Um, Trumpers won. Vance won. You're in denial. Charles, you're gone, motherfucker. He says, Vance won. You're in denial. Well, Charles, you're just stupid. It was pretty much a tie. It was not a tie. You sound like a Trump-la-fuck that's getting butt hurt. So you're gone too. Um, there was no tie. It was a clear and obvious win for Tim Walz. You'd have to be stupid to think otherwise. Liberian boy says, I'm driving through Atlanta, Georgia, and all I see are Trump electronic billboards, but no one for Kamala. You know why you're seeing those Trump billboards? Because Atlanta is a very blue city, and he's trying to win votes at any chance he can get, but it's not working. Tell me if you see any Trump signs in people's yards in Atlanta. I bet you don't. I was working. How did it go? Tim Walz won. JD Vance is a lying piece of shit. I think it's pretty much what we expected. Someone on X said it's like choosing between arsenic and pancakes. Okay. Donald Trump and Diddy Will there be the October surprise with these two? I don't know about Diddy. Diddy's got his own problems. Donald Trump was friends with Diddy. There's a number of pictures with Diddy. No pictures with Kamala and Diddy. But I think the October surprise is the evidence that's going to be revealed in Judge Chutkan's court in D.C. regarding uh, the superseding indictments. And there's a lot of evidence that's going to come out before the election, and Donald Trump is not looking forward to that shit. What makes you so sure you think Trump won't win the election? Pretty simple. Donald Trump is easily the worst presidential candidate in history. Kamala Harris is the most popular candidate in history. Donald Trump's been convicted of 34 felony charges. Donald Trump has been found liable for sexual assault. Donald Trump is losing Republicans every day. And in order for a Republican to win the presidency, you need a unified party and you need some independents. He's lost the independents. Many Republicans are walking away from him. He's not only going to lose, he's going to lose big. If Joe Biden beat him by 7 million votes, Kamala will win by at least 14 million votes, maybe 21. If you take out all the noise from the media and these polls that are bullshit, you can see it's not even close competition. Donald Trump will win. You can believe me or not believe me, but people said Tim Walz would lose tonight, and I said he wouldn't, and here we are. I also told you that there would be no red wave in 2022 because of the abortion, the overturning of Roe v. Wade. Make no mistake, that overturning of Roe v. Wade is going to have an even bigger effect in November. All right. Republicans are done. Finish. Amen. Just vote blue. Four ladies on the news podium. Yes, one purpose. Women will vote for Harris. You're exactly right. And women make up 50% of this country. How do you win when you alienate 50% of this country, particularly women? You can't fucking win. Do you think it was a strategy for Walz not to correct Vance about Kamala's VP powers? No, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know that they see that as a problem. Um, it's hard to say. All Tim Walz had to do is um, give his information and um, try to give people a better idea who he is. So, no, I don't think that was a big deal. All right, we are at 1 hour, 22 minutes. I got a violation warning. Your Trumplafucks are getting butt hurt. They got their ass kicked again. I'm sorry for you. But I'm going to wrap things up here. And again, if you didn't get a chance to listen to the whole live, check it out on the Rational Boomer podcast on YouTube and on Spotify. So you have a great night. More TikToks tomorrow and another podcast. So stick with us, and I'll be back doing a live again very soon. All right, we did the live. We got the Trumplafucks all fired up. They were mad. I got one of those little violation notice, which tells me they're coming. So I get out of there quick. My goal is to get past an hour, and I got to 1 hour 23. When it gets a little sketchy, I get the fuck out. I do my thing, and then the Trumplafucks can't have their way and go whine into TikTok. Anyway, I want to thank you all for taking the time out of your day to listen. I hope you have a great day, and we will talk to you again tomorrow.